Hello and welcome to the video version of the Happier at Work podcast. I'm so thrilled that you decided to tune in on YouTube today. Before I forget, don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you like today's video. And my guest on the podcast today is Darrin Tulley. We cover a huge range of topics in relation to psychological safety, diverse thinking. We talk about values, we talk about leaving the need to be right. But what I loved most about today's episode was Darrin's explanation of his transformational journey from someone who thought he was a big advocate for diverse thinking, diversity and inclusion, to someone who realized actually he'd been doing it all wrong. And so he implemented what he learned, and he's created this amazing environment, or he did create this amazing environment where he really drove innovation and the bottom line for his organization. So absolutely loved hearing that story. So someone who was happy to admit that he was wrong, didn't always have it right, but he was so keen to always do the right thing. Do go and check out today's episode and let me know what you think in the comments below. Darrin, you're so welcome to the Happier at Work podcast. I know we had kind of an almost accidental meeting. We connected on LinkedIn. We had a really great conversation a few months ago, and now we're here doing a podcast swap. So I'm really excited to have you on the Happier at Work podcast today. Do you want to let listeners know a little bit about you, your background, and how you got into what you're doing today?
But yes, it's so happy to be here and be part of your podcast and love love what you're doing, and honored to be here. Happy to be part of it. And I got to tell you, the journey that I've been on has been pretty wild. I'm sure we all have our own stories, right? So, for me, gosh, I've been in corporate America for around 30 years or so, and I was in financial services, working for startup companies to Fortune 100 companies here in the U.S. And I got to this place where I wanted to do something different, and I ended up starting my own consulting practice. And now I'm a fractional CPO, which is a chief people officer. I'm out doing speaking engagements on purpose, on joy, on possibilities, on inclusion, trying to help people really excel in life and unlock potential. And that's essentially what I'm doing with the podcast too. Just trying to help people live live their best life, see the light that's inside of all of us, and really see the beauty in all of us. I think there's so much potential, and I don't think I was seeing that for the first 25 years or so, but the last 7 years, I've been pretty enlightened.
Yeah. Can you talk a bit more about the catalyst? I know you shared this with me before, but I'd love for listeners to understand a little bit more about what drove that change.
Well, I didn't realize there were many moments, yet in particular, there were a couple of moments. One, I was actually at an immersion event, which was a diversity and inclusion event, when I was working at a company, at a Fortune 100 company, and a bunch of leaders were getting together. So there's 25 people together for this 4-day event, and it was a diverse group. I was one of 5 white males, as an example, and I thought I was like one of the good guys. I thought I was one of the good leaders. I thought, I was fun and respected people and brought the best out of people. I mean, my purpose at the time was I'm going to bring the best out of people all around me. What I recognized is that over those 4 days, after a couple of days, I recognized that I was not living out my purpose. I was not bringing out the best in people. In fact, I was pushing people away. Mm-hmm. And I didn't realize that until I heard folks share their stories and how hard it was, and how difficult it was, and how people were looked at, or how they were overlooked, or how they were mistreated, or not involved. So maybe they were not part of a job opportunity or passed over. Maybe they were pulled over in a town right next door just because of the way they look. Or maybe because they were looked at just because they're a different gender in a different way, inappropriate way. The things that people are sharing today, I can't believe it's still existing, right? So at that time, when I heard all these things, I'm like, oh my God, I'm not paying attention. I'm not taking the time to notice. And what I recognized at the time, I was actually not doing my part to actually bring out the best in people, to bring out the best in all people, right? So as I said, my purpose was to bring out the best in everybody that's around me. The reality is I was actually in this bubble, and I kind of chose who was in my bubble. So it was a bubble of sameness, and I wasn't looking for differences enough. I wasn't accepting the beauty in all of us. as I should. And that's when I basically broke down on the second day. And it was this awakening where uh, I stepped in front of this group and shared that I recognized that I had some unconscious biases I was unaware of.
Mm.
And it was so uncomfortable to share this. And I was shaking and I was emotional, not looking for sympathy,
Mm.
just sharing that I need to be a better human. And I thought I was one of the better leaders, good people.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there going, I'm going to commit to making a change. And people, I could, when I looked in people's eyes, I could tell people were mixed. People were looking at me with frustration, looking at me with maybe doubt of, why is he being emotional? Is it a deflection? Because I don't cry at work. Like I never thought you could cry at work
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
share emotions. Just give you an example, right?
Yeah.
And and then as I was kept looking and kept committing, I could see people were turning to be more loving, and the people that I was pushing down actually picked me up.
Mm.
And it was that moment where my bubble of sameness turned into bubble of difference, and it
Yeah.
expanded my world wide open. I thought I was like struggling and I was done and I was caught, I was found. And the reality is that I actually opened my eyes and my heart in a different way. And
Mm.
and I committed to doing things differently. I even have this pink pen I always talk about. Like I had a pink pen at this conference and at this immersion event, and I said I need an accountability reminder to look for differences, and this is one thing. I'm going to be a white male leader in a Fortune 100 company that's going to use a pink pen to sign contracts, write thank you
Yeah.
notes, write love notes, whatever. And it's opened my eyes to just expand my thinking, and so I changed my purpose from bringing out the best in people to actually unleash the light that's in everybody.
Mm.
Doesn't matter who you are, where you come from. And I need to do that because there's a beauty inside of all, excuse me, I'm going to restate that. There's a beauty inside of all of us that's filled with light, with joy, with love. And it's now my purpose to bring that out. So I
Brilliant.
recognize that I went from a point of unconsciousness to now I'm conscious,
Mm.
now being aware that I need to continuously do better. And that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
No matter where I am. If I'm doing a speaking event, if I'm coaching or as a consultant, or if I'm doing the podcast episode with you or with on my podcast, I just want to bring out the best because we all have so much more to give.
Mm.
Not to say we're not enough yet. There's so much light to share in the world. And I think if we do that, oh my gosh, could you imagine
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
that would
Yeah.
look like? We could all see better. We could all see the beauty, not the flaws.
Yeah. I love that. I'd love to come back, Darren, to you were saying that you kind of saw it as your mission to bring the best out in people
Mhm.
and that you thought that you were one of the good guys. What kind of things were you doing to do that? And maybe what were some of the things that you've realized you weren't doing?
Yeah, I always feel like I was engaging with, the teams and people, and I would always say hello and stop to check in on people. When I said hi and said, "How are you?" I would actually listen. I wouldn't just keep walking because I think that happens a lot in our
Yeah.
world. Uh, Yet I don't think I think it was kind of at the surface level. And I
Yeah.
realized that I wasn't going deep enough to see what's inside of people. And some people might have different backgrounds to where they went to school, or to their current skill sets, or to what they're currently training, or what their current jobs are. When I started to move aside from that and ask people what they're passionate about, what they love to do,
Mm.
people lit up.
Yeah.
That's when I realized people could do anything. And when I started to accept that and started to encourage people to step into that with me, into the unknown, people surprised me more than I could ever have imagined. And I was somebody that was like a forecaster in the business. I was someone that could see the future with our teams. And what I didn't see was the potential in the people that are standing right in front of me. And when I started to change in one of the practices as an example, and this doesn't look good at all on me because I had hired, before I went through this awakening, I had hired three people that are very similar to me:
Mm.
background, gender, uh, well, white males, great
Yeah.
guys, great people. We had great
Mm.
results together as a team, thought similarly. Nothing against these fine gentlemen.
Yeah.
What happened is over the next 10 hires, I hired eight folks that were more diverse in gender and ethnicity. And when I did that, the team changed, our thinking changed, our innovation changed, our ability to reach out to the full 1,700 person organization changed. Like we worked together to be able to actually transform an organization from a third quartile like rating to a top decile in 12 months because we were working cohesively and more
Yeah.
openly and more objectively, and we were accepting each other's strengths and opportunities together. And I kind of stepped back. Instead of having the answers, there was a lot more curiosity, a lot more open-mindedness, a
Mm.
lot more love, a lot more ability to share emotions,
Yeah. Yeah.
to
Yeah.
share
Yeah.
more joy. I think
Yeah.
I was probably a little bit more uptight. Not probably, I was a lot more uptight. So those kind of things change, like my hiring practices, who I would network. Like I would go out to the University of Yukon, or excuse me, University of Connecticut. I'd go to University of Massachusetts or University of Hartford or Siena, where I went to, and I would go with a different purpose to network. I would
Mm.
go meet people that were not like me.
Yeah.
Nothing against people that were similar to me, but guess what? We're all unique anyway. However, I made a different effort. When I did that, it was amazing. The cultures
Mm.
and the people and the backgrounds and the excitement and the passion. It just opened up the whole world opened up.
Yeah.
That's part of like my logo for my show, my book, and my website is this one-eyed smile. Like I was in this bubble and then I expanded out. And as I invited the world in, everything just opened up to this amazing set of possibilities, not just for me, but for everybody around us.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
welcomed each other. We invited each other in to get involved and do different things together. And that's when the magic happens.
Yeah, no, I love that. And there's so much that I want to pick up on from what you've talked about. There's two things that stand out to me in particular. The first one is this idea that people light up when you ask them what they're passionate about. So you might be thinking a particular way about a particular person because of the role that they have in the organization, and you kind of think that, well, that's what they do, rather than really truly understanding them as a human. So, and I suppose linked to that, I'd love to understand more about what you think when it comes to that and unleashing people's potential at work beyond what it is that they're currently doing by talking to them about what they're passionate about, what they really care about.
How to go about doing that? You're asking, it's there's not a there's not a manual. I'm sure there's probably tons of books and documents on how to do it. Here's the reality: be human.
Mm,
How do we step into a conversation when we ask a question, we listen, and then we ask a follow-up question to understand it more, and then we step in with an open mind to understand where is this coming from, and we connect it to something they're passionate about. We listen with curiosity,
mm,
and too often we jump in and say, "Oh yeah, I did that," or "Oh yeah, I when I was in this place, I went over and did this. I went to school, and oh yeah, so and so." It's like no, like if it's like you and me, right? Like we're gonna chat. I want to hear what's exciting to you, what's frustrating to you, what's getting in the way. Like a good question to ask somebody is, "Hey, what does a good day look like for you?
oh, that's a powerful question. One for
What are you
listeners.
passionate
Yeah.
about, and how can we bring that into what
Yeah.
that good day looks like?
Yeah.
Are
It's
there some
it.
skills that we could skill you up on that you care about?" I made a
Yeah.
big change after this awakening. I stopped asking people to go to develop and build up their skills based on their job. I suggested and encouraged people develop something you're excited about, that you're passionate about, that's going to help you live your life differently, maybe expanding your job differently or get it to another job differently that you're passionate about. I got so many interesting looks from HR folks and leaders like, "You're doing what?" But you know what happened? People's minds expanded.
Mm,
They got excited about this. They then figured out how to apply it to what they're working on. They applied it to innovation.
yeah.
We innovated the way we did work in ways, again, our technology teams couldn't figure it out after millions of dollars of thinking and idolizing and brainstorming and all the we had a small team that actually just broke through all the red tape. They broke through all the things that were stopping us from actually developing certain things. But why? Because they actually got passionate. They cared for each other. They worked as a team. They developed skills they didn't think they had, or
Mm,
that they maybe weren't capable of getting to because they were kind of in this other job. So people opened up their world
yeah.
in a different way. And then people just surprised me.
Yeah.
The more I
No.
stepped back, the better people did. So I don't know I don't know how to take that personally, but you know what?
No,
We got to get out of
you're the
people's way.
person who's bringing them together and taking them on that journey. So no, that's that. It's really incredible. And having heard so many different anecdotes, let's say, about innovation and how important innovation is and how important diversity is for innovation, this is the first time I think that I've had a real conversation with someone who's been in that situation, who's made that change, and it has had a direct impact on the organization. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, I appreciate you asking. I mean, I'm definitely putting myself out there. It's a vulnerable story, and I get mixed reactions with different people. Some people will say we need more people like you talking about this, and kind of
Mm,
getting conscious with not getting it right
yeah.
and being okay with it, meaning like my heart had to open up to say, oh my God, I'm not doing it the right way, and I needed to expand and accept that, and then do something about it. Like I needed to scale up. I needed to go learn. I couldn't just ask people, hey, what could I do? It's like what people want to hear, what I've learned is people want you to take initiative. So I went back and started reading a bunch of books. I started tentatively asking with curiosity to say, I would love to learn more about your culture. I want to know what I'm missing. I'd love to expand on what our differences are so we could actually discover new things and how we work together and innovate in new ways. Because what I've recognized is that when we bring in differences, we're adding to our knowledge or we're replacing our knowledge to
Mm,
make it better. So we can discover, we can
yeah.
explore, we can actually innovate, we get creative.
Yeah.
These are things that I think have been lost in the workplace because we're so busy doing and we got to do what we're told, we got to get it done, and we don't
Yeah.
have enough time to think and be creative. It's that acceptance of difference and inclusiveness, which is an act. It's not a bad word. It's an act of bringing in knowledge and information to make us better. The growth mindset is that all day long. Sometimes we take in something and we replace knowledge. Sometimes we take it and make something bigger and better.
Yeah. Yeah. And if I'm understanding what you're saying correctly, and this kind of admission that maybe I'm not doing it the right way, maybe there's a different way to do it out here, but the answers are not out there. The answers are within, and it's through self reflection. And you can use books as guides to maybe open your mind a little bit, but really the answer is going to come from within yourself. Would that be fair to say?
Absolutely. I mean, it's to me, it's all about connection.
Mm,
It's all about connection. If you think about, you pick any buzzword or any emotional word, how does it resonate to you? How does it resonate to me? How does it resonate to the audience here? It's that light I talk about. It's what holds your love. It holds your happiness. It holds your creativity, your ability to be imaginative, your desire to live with wonder. And like for me, living with wonder is transcendent joy because we're actually accepting the fact that I might not know everything. I might not see everything exactly right. And I might have to say I don't know, or I might have to step into the unknown and say what could be. Because even the word wonder, I love playing with this word a little bit because I think part of my career in my life, I wondered with skepticism or doubt
okay.
or kind of looking at someone and said, I wonder what they're up to. And now I've shifted to wonder what could be. I wonder what that light is inside for them. I wonder what we could do together. We know what I'm doing. I'm leaving my requirement to be right. I'm leaving my knowledge to say I don't have it just right. I want to get it right. I'm leaving things behind, but I'm okay with that now. If I'm vulnerable enough to share with you, I had unconscious biases that what I'm always working on and getting better at, and committed to really love every individual and to bring out the joy and creativity of everybody we know, so they can live their possible. That's my commitment, and that's a journey, right? That's never going to stop. And with
One
that
thing,
commitment, I just feel like when we live wondrously, we live with curiosity.
yes, that's exactly
That's
the
the
word I
transcendent
wrote
door.
down is curiosity. So having this curiosity that kind of infiltrates all parts of your life, let's say. But
Yeah.
something else you were saying about like leaving your requirement to be right. One of my mentors many years ago said to me, it's more important to be helpful than to be right. So
Yes.
sometimes people get on the defensive and they'll give people what they ask for. as kind of almost I know this is not what you need, but this is what you've asked me for, so I'm just going to give you what you've asked for, rather than thinking, how can I be helpful in this situation, and try and uncover what they're really looking for and help them to get it, what it is that they need, rather than giving them what they've asked for.
Totally. I totally agree with that. And it takes a little courage
It
to
does.
understand and accept, and to not have to be right or wrong. Because guess what? Our world is so divisive right now.
Yes.
We're constantly feeding our ability or need to have an answer right away, to back it up, not admit we're wrong, not ask for help. 0 or 1, it's politics A, politics, B. It's like, stop.
Yeah.
If we could just slow down and say, wait, I want to get it right.
Yeah.
Can we just learn a little bit? I want to hear
Yeah.
more about your perspective,
Mm.
and kind of work through this together.
Yeah.
And we're going to land in a better place. It could be, again, it could be governments that are going back and forth. Like it's just, unfortunate. There's so many people that actually defend themselves to a degree that it goes too far.
Yeah.
That's in the workplace to what we're seeing across the world, right? With conflict.
Yeah.
And it's these human behaviors that I think if we could all dial it back and just like, what do we really want? If we really understand it, and if it's self-preservation and our egos that we're talking about, then that's going to be tough. But we got to let those go away, because that's getting
Yeah.
in the way.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And we got to, check our emotions and not react with emotions, but respond with what we really want, in a different way. And this level of, curiosity, to me, it's such a technique in any situation. Like, thinking about what this means when you're in a situation where you don't agree or you're at odds. It's like, well, help me understand. Like, ask a question, like, help me understand how you got here. Help me understand what's going on for you, or help me understand what a good day looks like. Or, hey, I'm curious about your background. I'm curious about your passion here. I'm curious to learn because I don't know, and I'd love to learn more together. Like,
Mm.
just different ways. And I often talk about open mind and curiosity together. Like, open mindedness is you're willing to hear it.
Mm.
Then I say the curiosity is you're willing to do something with it.
Okay. Yes.
You're willing to actually change your perspective, or make it better, and enhance it, or to change what you know, or let go what you thought you knew. Because so many times we walk into a relationship, or we go into a conversation, or when we walk by somebody, we pass judgment, subconsciously passing judgment. And it's informing what we say and how we look and what we do. So it's slowing down. When we get curious, we're slowing down to actually look for what's in front of us. We're getting conscious again. We're actually thinking about, I wonder how that person ticks. I wonder what they're passionate about. I wonder what they care about. I wonder how I can help them have a great day. Some of this is repetitive, yet guess what? This is a pattern of our day. We live so much of our day subconsciously, which is kind of scary. Like, there's
Yeah.
times where
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
driving down the road and I'm like, how did I get here?
Yeah.
Thank God my subconscious brain knows how to drive. Yep. But if you dial it back, like, how many times have I looked somebody the wrong way? How many times have I said the wrong thing? How many times did I not say the right thing? Meaning,
Mm.
to engage in conversation and show somebody that I actually care.
Yeah. Yeah. This whole concept of caring at work is coming up a lot for me recently. I think it's so important. Darrin, I'd love to bring you back to the second thing that kind of occurred to me earlier when we were talking, and this is when you were doing your recruitment, and you were saying initially you were bringing in people who were like you. And if I'm kind of thinking about the recruitment process, you might have been thinking consciously or unconsciously that this is someone I'd love to go for a beer with. This is someone whose company I would enjoy, and therefore you hire people who are like you. For me, from all of the research that I've done, from what I understand about organizations and psychology, the really important thing is to find people whose values align with the organization, so that you're bringing a team together and you're really focused on the important things, that you have a shared kind of value system. But then, the challenge with that sometimes is you bring people and they're very similar. But what I love about what you've done is it's the diversity of thought. So for me, the crucial thing here is bringing in diverse thinking, people who've gone to a different school, maybe have a different background, they don't have experience in that sector, in that industry, whatever it might be, but the importance of bringing in those diverse perspectives and that diversity of thought. Anything to share around that, around the values piece, around the kind of diversity of thinking?
Yeah, I mean, the values piece I think is really important because we all have different values, different beliefs. And when I think about values, it's how we're living, how we're working, how we're participating, how we're contributing in ways that show up. If we have a value and we live it, it should be explicit. As we think
Yeah.
about how people describe us, hopefully people understand where I'm coming from with the values that I bring. And if I'm working with a company, and if anybody's listening has values at your company, I would take a look at those values and say, how do your values line up?
Yeah.
And even talk about that with, your manager, your leader, or with your folks, your teams, and like personally how to connect the dots. Because I would even step back to ask companies or folks in the community, even at schools, like, let's ask what are the values that people really care for right now? Because our society is changing so quickly. Values are changing too. And I do believe that we have some core ones. Personally, yeah, there are some that I think are I will say they're bridges to how we carry out our day, like how we act, how we contribute in different ways. Like, so I think it's important for companies and groups to ask people what their values are. So I think it's instrumental. I think without understanding what that is, we lack the passion and the inspiration, if you will. Because I think we could motivate people by telling them, "Hey, go do this," because the difference to me is when we actually connect it to something bigger, like a value or a
Yeah.
purpose, like why we
Yeah.
exist. That's inspiration, especially if I'm connected to it with you personally. That's inspiration because I'm connected emotionally. My heart's there with my mind, with my soul. I'm going to give it my all. Going back to like helping people develop. If people are developing something they're excited about and they're passionate about, and we have this vision to actually innovate and change how we communicate to our customers and our people with data and information so they can have more intelligence. So it's not just info, it turns into ways of actions. It doesn't matter how you get there. People want to do it because you've sparked this inspiration in them about these common purpose and value points that they're going to
Yeah.
go after. And the diversity of thought and thinking, to your other part of the question, that's what makes this work.
Yeah.
We're inviting everybody to say, here's what we're trying to solve. Do we agree with that? Do we agree how we're going to work together with values and operating principles, if you will? And then if we're all on the same page, now we have alignment. Now that we have alignment, we have clarity to what we're doing, and we respect everybody's perspective and everybody's thoughts are invited in, which shouldn't be that hard. It is. It's extremely hard.
It
I
is.
mean,
Yeah.
I've
Yeah. I
witnessed
was
it
just
on both sides. I made
the
it hard in the past, but now I'm inviting with curiosity and trying to get it right back to those points.
yeah.
Diversity of thought is what has made everything better. Like, I would say we achieved 80% of what was possible without it. And then we probably achieved 100, I don't know, almost 150%. Like we surpassed expectations
Yeah.
once we got a diversity of thought. And it wasn't people that were all from these top universities around the world. It was people, like you said, had the passion, the desire, and the willingness to connect to something personal, to get something right, and to do something that's connected with higher meaning and purpose. Those aren't just buzzwords. This is real stuff. Because I think, some people get caught, oh, purpose, higher meaning. Like, no, this is real. When people look at me with their eyes bulging, saying, "Oh my God, this is possible."
Yeah.
Yes, and they're people get emotional, they cry, they said, "I can't believe I'm sharing this." Like, because we could do so much together, and that's the power. And I think that as a leader, as a person in the workplace, just anybody in the community, you see somebody like you make those connections. And you do that with real purpose and love and curiosity. I mean, it's just we could go on and on about it. There's just so many stories.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant. I
Positive.
love that. And something that came up for me as you were talking about it, and maybe you have something to share on this as well, Darren, is psychological safety. So,
Mm,
are values the key to psychological safety then? Like, what was the
yeah.
difference between, say, having a group of people who maybe the innovation wasn't there because you all thought the same, but by bringing a diverse group of people, creating a scenario, creating a team where it's okay to be yourself, where it's okay to be authentic, where it's okay to speak up and to share your ideas and welcoming those ideas. Like, how did you go about doing that?
You know what? It's it's not reacting to the ideas and suggestions or the questions. It's really about welcoming and saying thank you and appreciating and thanking. And what I realized for me is that when I stopped telling people what to do and asking people what they thought we should do, that's when everything changed. I think we had a high level direction and values, but that level of psychological safety shifted when we asked people, what do you think? What's your take? And we built this agreement that we were going to be an inclusive environment and team, that we were kind of living in this both and. Yes, good thought, and would that how would that go with this, or how can that go with
Yeah.
that? And it was a building block mechanism. We weren't canceling each other out. Especially, I mean, I say that and you think about today's world about canceling. If we don't cancel each other's ideas out, we're not canceling each other's thinking out, right?
Yeah.
We're actually embracing more so we can build on it. Does that mean everything's accepted as part of the final product or decisions? No. But we got to the point where people were accepting that because they knew that every thought and idea and every word was going to make us better. It's going to allow us to think more broadly, like expand out again, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like go further out as a team. Really welcome the possibilities that are truly out there.
So you mentioned, Darrin, about stop telling people what to do and be open and kind of be curious to listen. Oh, now I remember what I was going to say. So we have done that in organizations that I've worked in, where you have this kind of open forum and no idea is too silly, and you can bring in different tools and techniques and props to kind of drive that innovation. And I love that approach because it is the idea that, well, that might not be the final answer, but it sparks something in someone else to come up with another idea that maybe, again, someone else can build on that even further. And it goes around and everyone feels like they've contributed in some way, that they were kind of part of that process of evolution or process of designing what it is the final outcome is. The other thing that I wanted to pick up on, Darrin, was this idea that stop telling people what to do and ask them what they think instead. We talk about this an awful lot, especially in coaching. Like, that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to coach people through. But sounds to me like a really great shortcut to creating psychological safety. So when you, rather than telling people what to do and they just kind of blindly listen and they get on with it, and sometimes it's quicker and it's easier to tell people what to do rather than to watch them struggle if they're not kind of fully there yet with figuring out exactly what needs to be done. But it's so important, especially if it creates that kind of byline towards psychological safety, just by engaging with people and saying, listen, you're capable of doing this job. What do you think that we should do in this scenario? What are the next steps here? Talk me through it. Talk me through your thinking. Even if you don't have the answer, what are the immediate thoughts? And I think it's such a powerful way to build a cohesive and high performing team that is not reliant, kind of going back to your earlier point that you mentioned, that you don't have to be there. It's other people who are doing the work, but you're facilitating that. You've created that environment. But that is the role of the leader, that they should be able to kind of step away from that and the team still performs, that they're not reliant on you. You don't have to be there for the day to day.
Yeah, I agree with that. Zach Mercurio, I think you know him. He talks about that invisible leadership. It's what it felt like to me. Like you have that invisible leader that's not in the room. It comes back to the values and the purpose and the connection of, no, we want to get this right. We want to do this together. Our voices are heard, and that's the place of belonging, fit, and all the things that I think you're passionate about too. So
I am, absolutely, Darrin. We've gone in loads of different directions today, but for me, it kind of followed this kind of underlying thread of People are amazing, and you'd be so surprised at what people are capable of if you give them the chance. Like, that's kind of how I would summarize our conversation. Is there anything else that you want to share along those lines, or is there anything else that you want to get across?
I love what you just summarized there, and I agree with you. And I think it starts with each of us. You mentioned this earlier about how we're connecting with individuals and giving people the chance to make a difference, the chance to surprise you, the chance to learn and do something that they never thought they could do or they never thought they were worthy of. Those are the experiences that will blow you away. And
Hmm.
I got to tell you, that's a better feeling than telling people what to do and then achieving those results. Not knowing what you're going to get, but asking what's possible and asking people what they think, you're going to get results beyond comprehension. I'm telling you, if you do that with real intent and genuine caring, right, you can't just say it and then do something else and not support people in certain ways. You're going to have success.
Hmm.
And be intentional about it. Be purposeful. Act with curiosity and follow through on it. And the other thing too is you mentioned about not telling people what to do. There's certainly environments where there is a command and control element where
Yeah.
sometimes we're in situations we got to just do this to survive or to get through some event. The problem is I've seen some leaders go so far to make that their norm. So the people just
Yeah.
don't step in. They kind of let
Yeah.
the leader or the manager do the job. So
Yeah.
they're like, they do the bare minimum.
Yeah.
There's no growth in that. There's no excitement. There's
Exactly.
no still growth possibilities there. The other thing about the silliness, I just wanted to add about that. Our ability to get comfortable with where we are and who we are
Hmm.
is so important too. Like I've had a lifetime where I've had self-doubt, where I wondered if I was enough. Like I started my life where I was behind at an early age, and some folks were hoping I would just be average. And that's one of those things when you look back and then you look forward, you're like, no, we all can do whatever we want.
Hmm.
Yeah, we all have limitations, sure. Yeah, not letting that be the reason why we're not doing what we think is we're passionate about, what we're capable of, or what difference we can make in the world that is in front of us. Sometimes we don't do things because we're afraid we're not going to change the world. Yet we can change the world that's right in front of us, starting, within us, like you said. And there's this point where the second point you had asked earlier about what were the moments that got me to this place? Like the one was the awakening at the inclusion event, and the second one was this my logo, if you could tell, it's the back of a watermelon Italian ice lid. And that was the moment where I started to recognize, no, there's something here. And I have to overcome this doubt because there's a greater need, there's a greater purpose. And I
Hmm.
was with my daughter and we were having Italian ice and we put this lid on the table and I was on my cell phone doing work and hanging out with my daughter, honestly not doing either one that well because I wasn't paying full attention to either one. And when she put this Italian ice down, she was all beaming and smiling. And I put my phone down and I saw this lid, and it was this upside down smile, this one-eyed smile. And I was like, oh my God. It was like it's like the universe, the world, whatever you believe in or don't believe in, it's something spoke to me, right?
Yeah.
But it hit my heartstrings. My daughter, I'm like, oh my God, she's beaming. And I'm like, Sadie, look at this one-eyed smile. And I turned it upside down, and it was this logo.
Hmm.
And my life literally flashed from my eyes from the days I was behind to how I was taken care of in all the experiences of my life. And I'm like, oh my God, the joy I get is from bringing joy out in other people.
Yeah.
And I wasn't doing that. And I recognized that I need to look for differences. And when I started to look for differences in the power of differences and kind of let my guard down and be silly, I saw this one-eyed smile because guess what? It's a different smile.
Yeah.
And it represents the fact that we're all unique. This is a unique smile that it's present. It's expansive. Like if you think about the eye being yourself and then the smile being the expansiveness of the world, inviting it in.
Hmm.
And this is something that reminds me, along with this pink pen, to look for these differences that there's joy and there's beauty and there's love inside of all of us. And I want us to actually see it and
Yeah.
recognize it. And whatever that definition is for you, to realize it every day because it's there. It's possible. We can find joy and happiness every single day to help us bring more light and do the things that we love,
Yeah.
right? Live with that higher purpose. And that moment for me, I got to tell you, that's what got me to start to write my book, Write a New Path, and do the things I'm doing now. And I'd love to be able to share opportunities with people and how they can actually spark their journey differently, unlock their potential, their possible, unlock their team's potential too. And I love all the work you're doing because you're doing all of that and more. And you're doing that with leaders, with women, with imposter syndrome work. I mean,
Yeah.
you're probably like chuckling when I said I had a lot of doubt. So like I did, and there's times and moments
Yeah.
where I still do, and I have to overcome that.
Well,
So it's
I've
not like there's like this special. I had these 2 moments, and that's it. It's like every day, purposeful steps,
yeah.
continuously learning.
Yeah.
Be our authentic selves, and then link those connections that matter, and you're gonna live with endless possibilities, and it'll keep popping, and it's unbelievable.
Yeah. Brilliant. Um, no, it is funny because I was going to bring up about that self doubt, and you were saying, well, I had to overcome that self doubt, and I've doubted myself, and like one of the things, and I think you alluded to it without necessarily explicitly saying it. So I'd love to build on the point by saying that by placing the emphasis on other people, not on ourselves, who are we here to serve? Who can I help today? That helps us to kind of realize that our self doubt is not about us. It doesn't matter that we doubt our abilities. We're here to serve other people and to help other people. So by putting the focus on other people, it helps us to shift the focus away from ourselves and our own doubting of our abilities.
Yeah, I think you just summed up my life. I realized that when I started to stop focusing on, where I was going in my career and telling people what to do and actually be more selfless, and help other people with that in mind, without
Mm.
expecting anything back, by the way, in return. When I started to do that, things changed, things
Yeah.
opened up in magical ways. Like the joy I found with my daughter wasn't just because she's my daughter, it's the joy of helping human beings come alive in a different way.
Yeah.
And when I realized like that smile was upside down on the table, it wasn't upside down. I was upside down, and I needed to change my thinking, and I needed to change the way I looked at life. I needed to be more silly and open and live with more curiosity and wonder. Because I do think it's a transcendent door to whatever it is that we care about, whatever we
Mm.
value. For me, it's joy, it's inclusion, it's love, it's helping people see the amazing things in life that they're capable of. It's unique for all of us, though. What is that door for you? What is that door
Yeah.
for other people?
Mm.
Is what really matters in my mind. And I don't know. It's just it's a journey, and it's not something that just happens. Even though these are events. Then you think about your life, and you think about the positive moments, you think about the hard moments, and you start to learn from those. And
Yeah.
that's a step too. That's really intentional. Like it's not just one thing that happens. It's like going to relive and see, oh my God, I grew up this way. Gosh, I won't do that again. Or wow, this is really why this set me on this course this way. And when we start to reconnect back to our childlike selves in some ways and how we
Mm.
lived our life, it really could set us free for what we've been told or what or the way we're being today. Right.
Yeah.
It's an avenue to go back to who we really are.
Brilliant. I love that. It's a really nice way, I think, to wrap things up on the podcast. Darrin, the question I ask everyone who comes on to the Happier at Work podcast: what does being happier at work mean to you?
Being happier at work to me is truly being part of something bigger. Like I'm contributing, I'm involved, I'm a fit, I belong, my voice is heard, I'm welcomed. Uh, people smile, when you walk into the room because they're happy to see you. I'm part of something, whatever that is. If it's at work or it's something in the community, I'm part of a classroom. I think it's just being able to be me as my authentic self and contribute in ways that actually adds value. And it's that simple. And to be able to start to see this for other people, right? That's what feeds my joy every day, is to help people do this. That sparks me joy every single day. As I work with intention to really bring out the best in people, I get rewarded all the time because people surprise me again what they do or what they say they can't do, they overcome, or the challenge that's in the way they figure it out. And I'm not doing it. Other people are doing it. I'm just
Mm.
helping people see that they're possible, they can do it.
Yeah.
And it's about people's paths and their voices and what they want to do and they want to achieve. And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about, to your point. And it starts from here. It's like I have this
Mm.
selfless care for other people and it feeds my heart every day.
Yeah. Love that. And if people want to reach out, if they want to find out more about what you do, what's the best place that they can do that?
Well, I know you're adding some links to the show notes, I imagine. Outside that, I also have a podcast called Live Your Possible. So you can go right out to wherever you listen to your favorite podcast and check it out. Live Your Possible, Darrin Tulley. And there's contact information there. And of course, I'm on all the different sites. Yeah, I think that's probably a good place to start.
Brilliant. Love that. Thank you so much for your time. I loved this conversation. I think we got down to some really practical things and some kind of real life examples of what happens when you have diversity of thought, what happens when you believe in the capabilities of people and you ask them about their passions and you provide that environment for people to share what's going on for them. So thank you so much for sharing your insight and your wisdom today. I so appreciate it, Darrin.
Yeah, thanks for having me. You're doing such great work, and I'm glad to be part of it with you. So have a great day. Thanks.